Ragna the Blood Edge has arrived at the cauldron deep within the 13th hierarchical city of Kagutsuchi. There, he sees that the smelting for New 13 has succeeded. She mocks him, and the two engage in battle, while they are being secretly observed by Heizama. After few blows, Ragna tries to activate his blue grimoire, but New 13 stabs him with her blade, and the two fall into the cauldron. As she watches onward from the Alucard castle, Rachel Alucard says goodbye to Ragna. With this, the world resets. Now in the next loop, Ragna has infiltrated the Novus Orbis Librarium branch within the 9th hierarchical city of Akitsuku. Now that he has destroyed it, he ventures from the location into a forest, where he is met by Rachel. The two briefly fought, and the vampire pointed him towards Kagutsuchi before she teleported away. Rachel arrived on the scene with Heizama nearby, and the two exchanged brief words. Noel Vermilion arrives at the office of Jin Kisaragi, handing him an important document concerning the events surrounding Ragna's attacks on the various NOL branches. The man recognizes his brother and cracks an unsettling smile followed by maniacal laughter before leaving for Kagutsuchi. Ragna, now in Kagutsuchi, wanders into an alley, attempting to step over a kaka who grabs his leg and attacks him before being swiftly defeated. She introduces herself as Taukaka, and he treats her to a meal at the Sum Yu Wu Chinese restaurant. She showed him a wanted poster of the Grim Reaper, although he was shocked at how much it did not look like him. Thinking on Taukaka's words about relaxing, Ragna has a short flashback before the Azure Grimoire begins to react, reminding him of his training with Jubei. Rachel continues to look at Ragna from afar. Noel has now arrived in Kagutsuchi with Heizama. He reminded her of her mission, to apprehend Jin, who has gone AWOL. He also told her to stay away from Ragna at all costs, only to observe him if necessary. Because of their early arrival, he ordered her to explore the city to become familiar with her surroundings, before reuniting at the NOL branch. Taukaka and Ragna continue to wander around the Orient Town district, before Ragna's Soul Eater begins to make her feel ill. He separated from her, and laid down to sleep. He began to dream, suffering a nightmare of the attack on Celica of Mercury's church. He awoke in the lap of Noel, mistaking her for Seiya. The two separated, before she became confused, believing that she may have met him in the past. Ragna has now infiltrated the NOL branch of Kagutsuchi. Inside, he is met by Jin, and the two begin to fight as Jin taunts him about the church attack years ago. Using the Mukro Elgesco, Yukianessa, Jin fought his older brother, although the Nox Nictor's power could not defeat Ragna as he activated the Azure Grimoire to knock Jin soundly to the floor, forcing him unconscious. Heizama and Noel arrived at the aftermath, seeing Jin unconscious on the floor. Noel directly disobeyed her orders and ran towards Ragna's direction, although he questioned how Heizama was so calm about the event he had witnessed. Deeper within the branch, Ragna is met by Hakumen. He began to feel fear as Rachel narrated how he had never beaten Hakumen. Hakumen charges towards Ragna with the Interfectum Malus, Ukami. The battle between Ragna and Hakumen begins. The hero begins his iconic speech before throwing Ragna into several walls and intimidating him with his mere presence. Rachel continues to watch the battle, but before Hakumen can deal the ultimate blow, Kakano interferes with binding magic formula and wants to teleport him to her laboratory. Hakumen easily breaks the spell. She tells Ragna through communication to get away, because he cannot win with him. She tries again to bind Hakumen, but still without a success. Ragna ignores Kakano's advice and activates Blue Grimoire, and Ragna again attacks Hakumen. Rachel says that she saw all of this action several times in the past and it will not change this time. Meanwhile, Noel is searching for Ragna. She is near the gate and hears awful sounds. The path led her to the Sheol gate. She has a feeling that she had seen this before. Suddenly, a dark energy of magic element surrounds Noel, and she enters an emotionless trance and acts like a machine. The kiln opens and New 13 appears. She identifies Noel as an identical unit. They introduce their units and numbers. New 13 says that Noel's existence is incongruous and recommends self-destruction. She rejects and they start battle. They summons their weapons. The two have a short battle as Noel lands several shots directly upon New 13's body. However, Noel regains consciousness, and she does not know what is going on and why her attacks do not work on her opponent. Although she has nearly won the fight, New 13 renews her armor and wants to deal a final blow. The blades are stopped by Ragna, who has won his battle with Hakumen. New 13's personality changes, and she begins to taunt him over and over again, each sentence filled with sexual innuendo. Rachel continues to watch over the exchange from the Alucard castle before New 13 knocks out Noel and begins her fight with Ragna. Heizama has now arrived proper to the battle. Seeing sparks fly between Murakumo and Aramasa, he tries to activate his blue grimoire, but she faster stabs him with her blade and hugs him. The two combatants are now stuck together through the sword, and Noelle has gained consciousness. New 13 begins to activate her Murakuma while Ragna activates his Azure Grimoire, and she offers him the chance to destroy everything. She begins to lead him towards the edge of the cauldron, and Ragna finally gives into his hatred of the world, disappointing Rachel. Now falling into the cauldron, Ragna has a flashback of his sister Saya, but is unable to hear her words. He awakes to see Noelle reaching out her hands for him, and the two barely catch one another before New 13 is sent hurtling into the cauldron by herself. Rachel is shocked, unable to believe that the time loops have finally ended with Ragna being saved from the event. Heizama is ecstatic, too. Noelle begins to cry, calling Ragna an idiot again and again. She runs off, hoping to find a doctor. Rachel teleports to Ragna's location, and she explains to him that Noelle is the calamity trigger, and that she will inherit the true Azure. Rachel teleports away just as Noelle comes back with various medicines. Now above the 13th hierarchical city of Kagutsuchi, Rachel turns her attention to the gigantic Mikazuchi. Rachel is high above the 13th hierarchical city of Kagutsuchi. She activates the Tsukuyomi unit in order to block a blast from gigantic Mikazuchi, protecting the entirety of the city, although the reflected barrage decimates the nearby mountainsides. Now with its shot fired, Rachel remarks on how Mikazuchi will need to go back to sleep for another 4 years before it can fire once more. Suddenly, Rachel felt Heizama's presence, and rushed back to where she left Ragna and Noelle. Noelle and Ragna are met by Heizama. Noelle is forced to observe Terumi, a soul sleeping within Heizama's body, and he is resurrected. Immediately, Terumi taunts Ragna, but before he can engage the villain, he is stopped by Rachel. Terumi summons the Geminus Anguian, Ouroboros, and attacks Ragna and Noelle, both of them being barely saved by Rachel herself. Linhu and her master, Fei Ling, two residents of Orient Town, look out onto the destruction of the mountainside. Rachel teleported both Noelle and Ragna near the district and contacted Kakano, telling her of Terumi's resurrection. She soon left. Noelle began asking Ragna questions, asking why he looked familiar to her. She found Ragna's evasive attitude upsetting, and Noelle left in tears. Suddenly, Ragna encounters a young vigilante named Carl Clover, who seeks Ragna's blue grimoire, and uses his event weapon, Machine God, Nirvana, whom he refers to as his older sister, Ada. They began to fight, but his wounds from New 13 had yet to properly heal. Nirvana did the majority of the fighting. The area around them is destroyed, and Ragna is forced onto the end of a long girder. Carl's confidence ends up getting in the way, and Ragna lands a blow which destroys the last platforms. Carl is defeated, and Nirvana rescues him from falling to his doom, while Ragna tumbles to the abyss. Using an Rs to slow his momentum, Ragna survives and lands in Lost Town, having been found by Makoto. Later, Taukaka appears, and Makoto leaves Ragna in her care to search for a doctor who can treat his injury. Meanwhile, at Kagutsuchi port, Heizama is talking to Relius Clover by phone and letting him know that Noelle had inherited the Azure, and that the monolith had been completed. Jin, under Heizama's orders, is kept inside a medical facility aboard. In Lost Town, Ragna dreams of the incident at church and how he saw the dead body of Celica. The dream continues with him being stabbed by Jin. When Jin cuts off his arm, Terumi picks it up and begins to taunt him again and again. Upon awaking from his nightmare, Ragna finds himself inside the house of Tadakaka before being met Fei Ling and several Kaka kittens. Fei Ling asks him why he refuses to use the Azure Grimoire and drain her soul to make himself heal faster. Noelle continues to wander around Kagutsuchi's higher areas and think about Ragna and what he means to her. She resolves to find him and resolve the matter. In the Kagutsuchi port, Relius has finally arrived, and Jin wakes from his coma. Tsubaki is summoned to Heizama's office and given orders to assassinate both Jin and Noelle. A flashback to the military academy. Noelle loses her poem to a gust of wind and is caught by Jin. The two become acquainted, with Jin noticing her similarity to Saya, but Noelle becomes extremely flustered over Jin having seen her poem and runs away. In the 7th agency, Hakumen is captured and bound with a powerful magic formula spell created by Kakano. That spell can repair itself when Hakumen tries to break free. Rachel has been summoned by Takamagahara, and she refuses to reveal to them why she activated the Tsukuyomi unit to stop the Mikazuchi. They tell her that a continuum shift event is about to begin, and that they cannot ascend to being gods. At the Lost Town, while Ragna was still recovering in bed, the little Kakas eavesdropped. They wanted to play with Ragna, but they were afraid because they would get scolded again. Then Taukaka comes and brings him food to get his strength back. At first, Ragna thought it looked gross and weird, but as Taukaka forced him to eat it, it tasted good. Meanwhile, at Kagutsuchi at night, Noelle reunites with her friend, Makoto. and they reminisce about the time they had with Tsubaki in the military academy, where they studied about the Highlander, take Mikazuchi, that it can only fire once every 4 years, and they talk about other event weapons. Noelle wonders how Tsubaki is doing, and Makoto tells her that Tsubaki will arrive in Kagutsuchi soon, which makes Noelle happy. Makoto tells Noelle that she cannot have a happy reunion with Tsubaki as the latter was ordered to find Jin Kisaragi and Noelle to assassinate them. Before arriving in Kagutsuchi, Tsubaki visits her household and releases the seal in order to get the sealed armament, Izaoi. Suddenly, Tsubaki has a vision of her and Jin from a different timeline together. After Makoto departs, Noelle uses the magic formula to search for Ragna. As Noelle traveled to Lost Town, she encountered Fei Ling along the way. At first, Fei Ling thought she was going to capture Ragna since she is from the Control Organization, so she summons her weapon, Mentenbo, to prepare to fight her. But Noelle tries to explain to her that it is just a misunderstanding, and that she has no interest of capturing Ragna, but wants to talk to him. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Kagutsuchi at night, Jin is still searching for Ragna, until he encounters one of the 6 heroes, Jubei. However, Jin doesn't believe that he really is one of the 6 heroes, and only thinks of him as a nuisance. However, Jubei quickly leaves him, telling him that if he really needs to talk to him, he will be waiting. Noelle finally finds an injured Ragna. She is worried for him because of his scars and bruises, while Ragna was surprised to see her, because he told her to leave him alone. While they are alone, Noelle is putting some new bandages on Ragna since he took them off, saying he doesn't need it. Noelle questioned Ragna about his connection with Jin, but Ragna refused to tell her about his past. After Releus arrived in Kagutsuchi, Heizama suggested that now, when all the players came together, the plan will go on. While Jin is still searching for his brother, Tsubaki starts searching for Jin and Noelle, and in 7th Sector, Kakano received Lambda 11, which is currently recovering in a regenerating tank. Rachel returned from Lost Town to Alucard Castle. She tells her butler, Helsing, that this world has now entered the continuum shift. In the sky above the 13th hierarchical city of Kagutsuchi, Iron Tager is deployed by Kakano to retrieve Noelle. Back in Lost Town, Ragna continues to heal while Taukaka, Fei Ling, and Noelle watch over him. Taukaka convinces everyone to go to the Kaka Hot Spring, a location where bathing there heals the person. Rachel appears and teleports them all to it. With everyone changed into swimsuits, the group begins to enjoy the springs, although Fei Ling becomes intoxicated by the spring's natural properties. Noelle accidentally sits on a button that begins to drain the spring, and the group is sent hurtling. Rachel, however, teleports away back to her castle. Ragna has healed from his wounds after being separated from Fei Ling and Taukaka. As they tried to find the way back to Kagutsuchi, they encountered a dark energy of magic element taking form of wolves. As Ragna is about to use his weapon, he quickly realizes that he left it at the Lost Town, so Noelle summoned her demon guns, Balverk, to destroy the dark energy. Things turn out worse when Ragnar realizes that Noelle, who already looks like his sister Seiya, wields an event weapon. He gets infuriated, giving her a warning attack and telling her to stay away from him, and they again parted ways. As Ragnar travels, he encounters a child who begs him to help, telling him that if he doesn't, the child will tell other people that he is horrible for leaving a helpless child starved to death. Ragnar had enough, and he took the child to a restaurant to feed it. The child is introduced as Sina, and he is acting very politely toward Ragnar. Then Ragnar realizes that that body has more than one soul, named Luna, takes over the body. She is acting very rude to Ragnar for always having Jubei to himself. Then Luna stuffs herself with food, but she suddenly stops and collapses. Then a third spirit comes out of Platinum's body, one of the 6 heroes, Trinity Glassville. She warns Ragnar not to fight with Terumi, and that he won't defeat him. After her spirit went back to Platinum's body, Sina and Luna left, having no memories of Trinity's presence. Ragnar leaves the restaurant and is found by Tager, who informs Kakano. Upon learning the information, she sends Lambda to his location. The fight begins. Lambda has the advantage throughout the fight, sending Ragnar running as she launches multiple blades towards him. However, Lambda started to remember him due to new 13 seconds memory. Kakano then calls Tager to capture Lambda and bring her back to the 7th agency to repair her. Tager manages to stop the fight and uses his magnetic ability to grab Lambda. Meanwhile, a still wounded Jin was seen talking to a food seller about Ragna, and then he encountered Bang. The two recognize one another from the Ikaruga Civil War, and Bang demands revenge with little effort. He defeats Jin, who was badly damaged. In the middle of the night, Noelle still couldn't get over Ragna's reaction toward her. She comes across Fei Ling's clinic and tries to talk to Linhu before being shunned because of her uniform. Later that evening, Noelle watches the New Year fireworks alone. Fei Ling has made her way to Bang's residence where she treats Jin's wounds. Jin regains his consciousness and questions Bang on why he helps him. Bang replies that he doesn't want to fight Jin while he is still injured. He wants to fight only when he will gain his full strength, but for now, he wants him to stay for the night until he fully recovers. The next morning, Bang takes Jin to get some fresh air for a bit. As they encountered a group of kids who were greeting Bang until they saw Jin, they felt much hatred toward him because of the Hierarchical Civil War. Bang convinces kids not to go down the path of revenge, saying that it won't solve anything, and he doesn't want them to be consumed by hatred since they are still young. After that, they rest for a bit, and Bang leaves Jin behind since he can trust him and knows he will come back to his household. Suddenly Jin encounters Tsubaki, and he is surprised that she is using sealed armament, and worried because he knows what the cost of using it is. Tsubaki created sealed space, so other people won't see or hear them. Tsubaki tells Jin she was assigned to kill him, but she doesn't want to do it. Then Heizama interferes and controls Tsubaki. As Jin tries to draw his sword, he realizes that he can't do it, and is left fatally injured by Tsubaki's hand. After the sealed space disappeared, Tsubaki came back to her senses and saw that she had stabbed Jin. Jin says her name and dies. Tsubaki cries in anguish and sorrow. After hearing a woman scream in horror, Bang turns back and notices that Jin is dead and tries to rush over to his side. But the event was stopped by Takamagahara since they can't lose the power of order, so they decided to reset time and alter the events so Tsubaki and Jin won't meet. In this event, Jin decided to go with Bang, and after they left, Tsubaki came and got some tea. After they went back, Jin realized he couldn't draw his sword, and Bang decided to let him go since the control organization was looking for him. Tsubaki encounters Noelle, who is happy to see her once more. Noelle informs Makoto that she has found Tsubaki. Despite the static, Tager informs Kakano that he has located 2 traces of the blue, which are probably on the higher levels where Tager begins to head. Tsubaki tries to persuade Noelle to go back with her, hoping that it can prevent Noelle's death sentence. But Noelle wants Tsubaki to give her time so that she can figure out the things that are happening around her as well as her past. Tsubaki gets angry when Noelle mentions that Ragna could possibly be the good guy and that control organization may be the bad guy. Rachel appears in front of Ragna, telling him to follow her, while Makoto rushes to find Noelle and Tsubaki, who begin to don the sealed armament, Izayoi. Rachel brings Ragna to Relius, who is on a platform watching Noelle and Tsubaki. Relius says that he came to see his creation, who was supposed to be a defective unit yet became the successor of the Blue. Ragna gets irritated, thinking that he had followed Rachel for nothing. However, he hears Noelle's voice and realizes that she is under the platform they were on. Tsubaki begins attacking Noelle, who blocks with Balverk. However, Noelle hesitates to pull the trigger and is rammed by Tsubaki's book shield. Noelle then says that Balverk doesn't exist to shoot her friends, which made Tsubaki regret what she did. Ragna is shocked after Relius mentions that Noelle is Prime Field No 12 that he created. Heizama begins to mess with Tsubaki's mind again, telling her that Noelle took everything from her and that she should be hating Noelle instead of treating her as a friend. Tsubaki begins to fume with anger as Heizama stops speaking to Tsubaki's mind and states that Tsubaki is nothing but a tool to awaken Noelle. Tsubaki continues her assault on Noelle, who ends up being controlled by Balverk and strikes back, downing Tsubaki with her Type V assault through. Tsubaki then releases the limiters of Izayoi and charges at Noelle, only to be stopped by Ragna. Relius appears as well, grabs Noelle by the neck, and says that although she may be the successor of the Blue, she is still a defective unit before leaving. Tsubaki, who suddenly realizes that her sight has begun to deteriorate due to the Izayoi, runs off with Noelle chasing after her. Rachel asks Ragna to think about what he would do about Noelle after realizing what Noelle actually was, and he teleports away. Heizama, who is in a lift with Phantom, is irritated by the fact that Tsubaki was utterly useless since both Tsubaki and Noelle were okay and that Jin's death has also been avoided. Noelle catches up with Tsubaki and talks with her. Tsubaki tells Noelle that she will pretend that she has not seen Noelle today, and leaves. Tager tells Kakano that he has confirmed the traces to be on the higher levels. Kakano tells him to continue tracking the traces, and he may get to rendezvous with one of their collaborators, Makoto. Kakano also mentions that the static is due to the Izayoi. Makoto finally reaches the scene, only to find Noelle sulking alone. Noelle runs towards Makoto and begins to cry in her arms. In the sewers of the Kagutsuchi, Heizama searches for Arakune. Arakune appears from one of the sewer gaps and attacks Heizama. However, the attempt is futile as he gets easily pinned onto the ceiling by Heizama's snake pair. 9. The Phantom teleports them both to the surface of Kagutsuchi under Heizama's order. Inside her lab, Kakano looks at the readings of Lambda 11, accidentally spilling coffee over herself. Carelessly, she throws her jacket onto Lambda's tube, teleporting her to Kagutsuchi. As Lambda looks around, she recognizes that she is in the Hanging Gardens and detects the presence of Arakune, who grabs her by the throat and begins to consume her while she is defenseless. Ragna grabs her and pulls her out of the monster before defeating him with Aramasa. The monster then slinks back into the sewers. Ragna recognizes Lambda soon after rescuing her. Rachel watches over the situation while Kakano only just realizes that Lambda has teleported away. She attempts to hack into Kagutsuchi's surveillance system, but is unable to do so because of the sealed weapon Aoi. Ragna walks away from Lambda, and she sinks to her knees, having found a Tartar that had dropped from Arakune. Kakano attempts to hack into the Novus Orbis Librarium to find Lambda's location, but the mainframe shuts down. Meanwhile, Lambda cares for the Tartar, and Ragna shows his softer side to her, and the two introduce themselves to one another. Noel and Makoto talk about Tsubaki. Makoto reveals to Noel that there are no official documents on Heizama, nothing on his age, birthplace. She also tells Noel about Kakano being ready to take them both to safety. Lambda continues to watch over the Tartar, noting that it's dying because it's no longer with Arakune. Both Lambda and Ragna search for Aqualeaf, a plant that can help cure wounds. Kakano has contacted Tager, asking him to bring her back. Lambda asks Ragna why he saved the Tartar, and he tells her that he owes his life to Rachel and Jubei, both of them having saved him once. The two bond by blowing leaves, and Lambda reveals her name to him. Eventually the Tartar dies, the Aqualeaf being unable to save him. Tager has located Lambda, interrupting the two's tender moment, and retrieves her. Kakano thanks Ragna for looking after her, and tells him that Terumi is planning on smelting Noel. Ragna walks away, vowing to protect Noel. Heizama and Phantom awaken Izanami. Heizama explains the events that have happened thus far to Izanami, explaining how many Novus Orbis Librarium soldiers had to be sacrificed for the smelting. He walks out of the throne room with Nine the Phantom. Ragna searches for Noel, concerned for her well-being, but unbeknown to him, both Noel and Makoto are nearby. Jin enters the NOL branch of the 13th Hierarchical City of Kagutsuchi. In the sewers, Fei Ling is searching for Arakune, and is approached by both Heizama and Phantom. Behind her is Arakune himself, and she runs to him. Heizama taunts her and offers her a chance to save him by joining the NOL. Makoto and Noel have noticed that the entire NOL branch is empty, and the former reveals that there was no retreat order. She tells Noel about the monolith, and her theory about Heizama having killed off the entire NOL branch. Makoto contacts Kakano, who was monitoring Lambda 11. The professor sends Iron Tager to retrieve both Makoto and Noel. Jin runs into Tsubaki. She charges him with insubordination, and Jin refuses to adhere to her arrest. She summons the sealed weapon Aoi to battle against his blade, the ice sword, Yukianessa. Yukianessa, however, does not draw, and Jin is only able to barely use his ice-related powers. Tager is found by Heizama and Phantom, and the Red Devil fights against the captain. Jin reminds her of the Ikaruga Civil War, and reveals that the Wings of Justice silenced all who opposed the war. Jin remembers the words of Jubei, and mixed with the words that Tsubaki had told him, Jin is able to awaken to the power of order. He draws Yukianessa and launches himself at her, but Tsubaki's eyesight begins to blur and falter. In response, Jin encases her in ice, which finally shatters after he leaves. Tsubaki breaks down crying in the middle of the branch. Jubei finds Ragna as he's about to enter the NOL branch and warns him not to die. Helsing appears as Ragna walks away, and asks his old comrade why he is not pursuing the Grim Reaper. The cat replies that it is not their fight. Rachel tells her butler that she will witness the events herself, and Valkenhayn returns to the Alucard castle. Makoto and Noel find the aftermath of the battle between Tager and Heizama, finding the captain standing over the defeated Red Devil. Kakano desperately tries to contact her subordinate, and Heizama switches minds with Yuuki Terumi, who taunts Makoto with racist insults. Tsubaki, in her grief, turns her blade to her throat, intent on suicide. Izanami appears in a brilliance of light, and offers Tsubaki a chance to work directly underneath her. Meanwhile, Jin has finally found Ragna. Rachel has a meeting with Takamagahara. They reveal to her that they will alter the continuum shift until they arrive at a desired shift. Rachel leaves after expressing concern for Terumi and calling their desired world dull. Ragna and Jin have begun their battle, with Ragna being overwhelmed by Jin's newfound power. The two clash continually. Makoto and Noel are being taunted by Heizama, who stands over the defeated body of Iron Tager. He continues to stomp on the Red Devil's face before kicking Makoto away. Noel summons the Arcus Diabolus, Balverk, to fight against the captain and runs to Makoto. The two resolve to battle against Heizama, while Tager contacts Kakano. Heizama dances effortlessly between Makoto's blows, but is briefly overwhelmed by both of them. Terumi takes over from Heizama and summons the Geminus Anguium, Ouroboros, throwing Makoto away and knocking Noel to the ground. Terumi has beaten Makoto unconscious and dangled her over the edge of a large chasm before beating her against nearby walls and constricting her to the point of near death. Terumi reveals to Noel that just by existing, she has brought ruin to the life of Tsubaki. Terumi shows Noel a timeline where she does not exist and switches back to Heizama. He then drops her over the chasm. Noel runs to the edge and cannot see her. In her anger and despair, Noel points Bulwark at Heizama. The stress and despair of Makoto's apparent death cause her emotions to overcome Bulwark's limiter. Terumi's goading causes her to hate the world more and more until the monolith consumes her to begin the smelting. Ragna and Jin's battle is interrupted by the shaking of Noel's power. Ragnar runs away, and Jubei stops Jin from following. The Beastskin tells Jin to go towards the cauldron underneath the NOL branch. Ragna finds Heizama at the monolith and begins to activate the Azure Grimoire, only for Heizama to activate his blue grimoire. Ragna is then unable to activate it. Rachel travels to the prison containing Hakumen and undoes the Ars Magus restraints that bound him. They teleport back to the NOL branch in Kagutsuchi. There, Hakumen runs to find Terumi, but Rachel is left exhausted from dismantling his restraints. She is found by Nine the Phantom and Izanami, who use sorcery to imprison her. Heizama walks towards Ragna and reveals that he is the creator of the Azure Grimoire. Ragna becomes unable to activate his blue grimoire due to Terumi's interference, and is unable to fight Heizama properly. After feeling some influences from the kiln with Noel inside, Ragna asks Terumi if he is planning on reviving the Black Beast. Terumi tells Ragna that the Black Beast is a failure product, and is a kiln that has gone berserk, then tells him the history behind the Black Beast. Amaterasu, the dimensional boundary contact prime field, the blue, the Takamagahara system, and the boundary. Meanwhile, Lambda 11 is teleported to Kagutsuchi by Tager. The smelting of Noel becomes complete, and she becomes reborn as Mu 12 the God Slayer Kusanagi. She descends from the kiln, while saying that she hates the world. Terumi comments that she is adorable, and asks Ragna just how many times he has had people take his sister's face away from him. Ragna declares that he will definitely defeat Terumi, and then Terumi tells Mu 12 to go down to the kiln to destroy the master unit. Mu 12 then goes down through a portal while Ragna yells at her to not go, but Mu 12 ignores Ragna's plea and disappears. Mu 12 arrives at the gate, where Hakumen is waiting for her. Mu 12 declares that Hakumen must be destroyed as he is the user of the Sankashin Susanoo unit, and the battle ensues between them. Ragna and Terumi's battle continues, where Ragna continuously becomes overwhelmed by Terumi. Lambda watches the battle from the sky as she is on standby on Kakano's orders. Ragna is continuously overwhelmed by Terumi, and when he is about to use his distortion drive, eternal coils of the dragon serpent to finish Ragna off, Lambda intervenes and protects Ragna from death. Kakano tries to stop Lambda, but she tries to fight against Terumi, only to get overwhelmed and stabbed in multiple places. Lambda falls onto Ragna's hands, where Ragna asks her why she saved him. Ragna calls out to Kakano for her to teleport Lambda back to save her, but Kakano tells Ragna that Lambda is beyond saving due to her severe injury. The memories of New awaken within Lambda, where she then tells Ragna about her past when she was all alone in the boundary, and tells him about the dream she had about him. Ragna sheds tears as he sees her dying, and Ragna apologizes to her. Lambda's body then starts glowing, and Ragna's body also starts glowing, and then Lambda's body starts to disappear. Ragna then sees Lambda's visor fall off and sees her smiling as she disappears. Ragna shows distress over Lambda's death, yelling out that she shouldn't have saved someone like him. Ragna then stands up, telling Terumi that he cannot forgive Terumi no matter what. Ragna realizes that he has received Lambda's idea engine, and after Kakano tells him to connect to the idea engine, he activates his blue grimoire again along with the idea engine. Terumi tells Ragna that it's no use, but sees that Ragna can activate it due to the idea engine. Terumi also activates his own blue grimoire, but Ragna's own blue grimoire overwhelms Terumi, which makes him go flying. Ragna then uses his distortion drive, devoured by darkness, to defeat Terumi. Terumi coughs out blood and suffers from his wounds, then tells Ragna to kill him off, but Ragna does not speak and only stares down at him. Jai then comes flying to beg Ragna to save Rachel. They both leave while Terumi suffers in pain from his wounds, and Terumi calls Ragna a chicken. Ragna, having saved Rachel from her imprisonment, Ragna learns that there may be no way to save Noel from her smelting into Mu 12. Kakano chimes in, telling him that it is indeed impossible. The scene cuts back to Ragna joining the fight against Mu 12 alongside Hakumen and Jin Kisaragi. Together, Ragna and Jin fight against Mu 12, but the younger brother is knocked down by Herstein's gunner. Rachel and Hakumen continue to watch on as the fight continues, but they are unable to get close to her. Rachel remembers back to when she told Ragna about Noel's condition, and that he may be able to shatter her soul using the Azure Grimoire. In the failure to do so, Hakumen will be ready to kill her. In the present, Ragna pushes Jin out of the way of a torrent of blades. Mu 12 begins to monologue about her hatred for the world and everything within it before sending forth a powerful attack that sends Ragna and Jin to the floor. Takamagahara watch intently, allowing time for Terumi to infiltrate it. Ragna is shot by the Stein's gunners, and Ragna steadily walks towards Mu 12, attempting to communicate with personality of Noel, but it was useless. A vision of Lambda 11 occurs, and Ragna activates the idea engine to reverse the smelting, sacrificing his arm and saving Noel from becoming Mu 12. Takamagahara decide that they will make an event part of the continuum shift, but Terumi interrupts, having infiltrated in the nanosecond in that they were distracted. 9. The Phantom deployed a virus onto Takamagahara, and they were subdued. Noel finally awakes in Ragna's arms, and realizes that Ragna and Jin are brothers, also noticing that the former lost his arm. Hakumen turns to leave, but they are interrupted by Heizama and Phantom, who reveal that they defeated Takamagahara. Release Clover and Izanami arrive to tell Heizama to stop. Ragna and Jin instantly recognize Izanami as their sister, Saya. Hakumen rushes to slash at the Imperator, but is blocked by Ai Fei Ling and Tsubaki. Noel demands to know why Tsubaki is acting alongside the Imperator, and she expresses her loyalty. Izanami begins to talk down to Rachel before leaving with her group. Aboard an Ars Magus ship, Iron Tager is loaded on, and Noel lays on a bed, resting. She is visited by Makoto, who is revealed to still be alive. Kakano personally travels to the altar at the 13th Hierarchical City of Kagutsuchi. She picks up Lambda's visor before looking out to the sky. Jubei offers Jin the opportunity to strengthen himself, and the two travel out of the area. Kakano visits Ragna in the clinic formerly used by Failing, having created a new arm for him. Releus and Heizama look over a cauldron, finding that Nu 13 is rebuilding herself thanks to the life link with Ragna himself. The Grim Reaper is walking out of Kagutsuchi and is found by Taukaka, who tells him that she will accompany him on his journey to Ikaruga, courtesy of Jubei's orders. Thank you for watching till the end, and please don't forget to subscribe.